Get in here, get in here, get in here, and let's talk about how to move to another country. This video is for anyone who's considering moving to another country, you're curious about it, or you've already made the decision, and now you're just trying to figure out the how, which is probably how you came up on this video, okay? For those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Malcolm MJ Harris, and for a couple years now, I have been living in multiple other countries. I currently live in Brazil, but before here, I lived in South Africa, Bali, Indonesia, and I'm going to tell you right now that moving abroad is not very difficult. So I'm going to share with you what I did, and I'm going to share with you also what I know other expats have done. Expats are people who have left their home country to move abroad, okay? So the first thing you have to do if you're looking to move abroad is you first of all need to determine what is your why. And the reason why I say that is because if you don't have a strong why for wanting to move abroad, then you are not going to be able to go through this process, because the process can be difficult at certain points. It's easy to move abroad, but there are certain steps that can feel difficult. And if you don't have a strong why, you're going to give up, you're going to move back, or it's just going to really not feel good to do this, okay? You're going to regret your decision. So my why was pretty simple. It was because I was heading towards 40, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to retire the way that I want to retire. I built a very nice lifestyle from building a business in the United States. I lived in a very comfortable home in the suburbs of Los Angeles. But the reality was, when I looked towards my future and I did those retirement calculators, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford to maintain this quality of life if I don't save more money. And when I looked at how much I could save, just being realistic, taking care of 2 teenagers, maintaining my quality of life, taking care of other family members, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this absent of working 7 days a week. And I'm like, if it's a struggle for me, I can only imagine how it is for other people who may not be business owners. So one night I was sitting up and I was watching different YouTube videos, which leads me to the second step. I was watching different YouTube videos, and this video had popped up that talked about how to move abroad, you know, how to move here, how to move there. I was talking about the cost of living in different places. And I was saying, wow, you can live in this country for $1,500 a month. You can live in this country for $5,000 a month. I was like, wow, this is really great compared to the prices I'm seeing here in California. So it touched my curiosity and it made me start researching more. So that's really the second step, is you need to determine how much do you want to spend in terms of your living expenses. You kind of have to work backwards. If you're someone like me who wants to move abroad to save money, I'm very unapologetic about saying that, then you need to start thinking about, well, how much do I want to spend? Like, I want to spend less than $5,000 a month. I want to spend less than $3,000 a month. Pick a number and then start researching backwards from there. Luckily, there's so many resources online on Facebook, various other platforms out here with people who will share their stories about how much their living expenses are, cost of living wherever they live. And you can search for that. Search for top places to live that cost less than $2,000 a month, whatever it may be, right? So that's how you start to build your first part of your list, is how much do you want to spend. Another component you want to look into is you want to look into what place is going to be comfortable for your quality of life and the goals that you have for your life. Just because you're moving abroad is not the big goal. Moving abroad, this new place, is simply a platform for you to continue to build towards your goals. So if you want to get married, if you want to meet a partner, if you want to build a business, if you want to do whatever, you need to find locations that are going to be amenable to that, because just because a place may be low in cost to live there, that doesn't mean that it's going to be able to be what you need in other areas. So one of the things I would recommend looking up is another factor, which is best places to live as a single woman moving abroad. Best places to live as a gay or lesbian moving abroad. Best places to live as, you know, whatever it may be, to start a business. Whatever it may be, you want to search for different places based on that, okay? Now, for me, I just wrote everything on a list, like best places for this cost of living, best places for the goals that I had, you know, and so on and so forth. And then I sort of compared across that list, and that's how I came up with my initial locations, which were initially my locations that I was considering were Bali, Indonesia, Portugal, because there was a lot of, back then there was a lot of information online talking about how Portugal had a really good cost of living. And a lot of Black Americans that moved there from the United States. That was another factor I looked up, was I did not want to go to a place where I would be the only me. I love diversity, but I don't want to be the only me. So I was looking at places that would also have a decent size Black population or Black middle class population. And so Portugal was one of the places, because a lot of the expats from the United States had moved there. What else was on my list? And South Africa, of course, was on my initial list, right? And so once I narrowed down where I wanted to live, then what I did was I then started to look at, well, okay, how can I make this a reality? What are the things that I have to do in order to live abroad? When it came to income, that was the first factor. Now, for me, I work in the insurance industry. I focus on developing online courses and doing trainings and providing support and guidance to agents in the insurance industry. So that's something that I can do online, because the fact of the matter is I work with insurance agents. So I'm training them on how to sell. I'm training them on how to work from home. And so for me, the income part wasn't a big deal. But for other folks, how are they going to earn their income is something you have to think about, because maybe you're working in a job right now where you're like, I can only work from home once a week, so how would I work abroad? Or I can't work from home at all. I would challenge you to think about what might it look like to perhaps switch jobs to a company that's going to allow you to work from home. Now, for some people, they say, I would love to work from home, but the jobs I'm finding just pay too little. I'm going to challenge you in this area to tell you what I've seen other expats do. Let's say that you're making $70,000 a year living in Chicago right now, or living in wherever you're living, and you want to move abroad, but you need a work from home job and your current job doesn't let you work from home. But let's say you're considering moving to, I don't know, Thailand, or you're considering moving to wherever, and let's say that the cost of living there is potentially 50% cheaper than your cost of living right now. Think about this. Then what that means is whatever job you switch to doesn't necessarily have to pay at the same level that you're currently at. You could, in theory, take a job paying $50,000 and still be able to live extremely comfortably in these other places. So I'm going to challenge you to think about, when you're looking for a job, don't think about finding a job that is going to be the exact same amount of money that you're making now. What you're looking for is a job that has the same value that you're getting out of your job now, but in another location. So a place where, even though you're taking a pay cut, if you have to, don't take a pay cut if you don't have to, but a job where even if you take a pay cut, you can still live a very nice quality of life, because that's a different mindset. Okay, I think that's one of the things that keeps a lot of people stuck from moving abroad, is they struggle to find a job that can actually pay them at the level that they want to be paid. So beyond that, once you have a work from home opportunity, or let's say you're self-employed in some way, shape, or form, and so you've got the income piece out the way, then the next thing you want to think about, and this is critically important, is you want to think about what are the visa requirements before you go to that place. I'm going to tell you why, for example. So for us, we moved to Bali first, and it was me and my two teenagers at the time. And when we got there, we were like, we're going to move to Bali. We were so naive. We had no idea about, visas and all this stuff. You can go to many countries, but you can't just go and plant yourself in a country and say, I live there. You need to make sure that you're doing their requirements in order to be able to be there. We see a lot of stuff in the media about people meeting requirements to be in a country. Every country around the world has their own requirements. Please believe that. Some may be more strict than others, but they have their requirements. And so when we got to Bali, one of the things I didn't know was, and this is specific to Bali, not for every country, or Indonesia, not for every country, was that when you get there, I think at the time you could only be there for 30 days as a tourist, right? When you come there, you get a tourist visa, which is basically how you're allowed to stay there. And so you can only be there for 30 days and you have to leave. And you could leave and maybe come back and then get another 30 days, but you still had to leave. So we didn't realize you needed a more longer term option. And so what we found out at that point in time, because we had to leave, we left to go to Thailand for a little while, and then we came back. And while in Thailand, we applied for a longer term visa in Indonesia, which allowed us to stay there longer. What I'm telling you is this: a lot of countries have options to allow you to be there. Rather, they have digital nomad visas, or they have student visas, or they have extended tourist visas, or they even have permanent residency visas where you can stay there long term. There's tons of options in different countries. For whatever country you're going to, look up what visa options exist for you to be able to stay there. You need to look that up in advance, because in some cases you have to apply for that visa in your home country, right? You can't apply for it in that country. So you'll fly all the way there only to realize you got to fly all the way back home to do the visa application. And so that you have to look into that. Visas are typically not very difficult to do, but you do need to plan accordingly. Now, one of the questions people always ask me was, what did you do with your house? What did you do with your stuff? Okay, so for me, I did it my way. I would do it different. So what we did was this: when we were ready to go, listen, I called up every single realtor in the area and I was like, hey, we moving. You got anybody who's looking for a house with these specifications? I called everybody, did everything I could happen quickly, right? Now, what if you're not in a market right now where you can sell or you can rent your house out that quickly? Well, the alternative, in my opinion, is perhaps considering maybe putting your home on Airbnb. That's something, or renting it out to somebody else just to cover the costs, right? And so that's what I see a lot of people doing. Another thing that we did with our stuff, which I would not recommend, was we put our stuff into storage. I would not do that. I would not do that. I would not do that, okay? If you know you're moving abroad and you plan to stay abroad, oh my God, we put a 5-bedroom house into storage. You know how expensive that was? It was like basically paying what the rent was in Indonesia was how much the storage units were in the US. And so I'm up thinking, well, we'll put it in there just in case we come back. I would not do that, okay? Because the reality is that my stuff was sitting in storage for over a year, right? So you can imagine spending all that money every single month for over a year. Even if we did move back to the US, that was money that we could take and just buy new furniture, you know? And so what I recommend is this. If you're gonna put anything in storage, maybe just put the things that you can't replace. Photos, heirlooms, things like that, things that are very important to you that you can't replace. But for that sofa that's already old, get rid of that. That coffee table, get rid of it, okay? Give it away. And so ultimately, that's what I ended up doing. Was I ended up from where were we at that time? I think in South Africa by that time. I ended up basically just having someone help me out with giving my stuff away. Because I didn't even fly back, because when I added the cost of it, I was like, it cost me more to fly back to empty this storage unit out than it would cost me just to pay somebody to go into the storage unit and give it away to other people for me. So long story short, stuff is just stuff. You can always replace it. But if you're planning to move abroad and you need to do something with your stuff, I recommend donating it elsewhere or whatever. But storage units, be careful about getting a big storage unit, because you're going to find that you may end up getting something much bigger than what you need in order to hold on to stuff that you're not going to keep forever. And I would say beyond that, be open-minded when you're choosing a place, to knowing that it's going to be very different than where you're coming from. And the people who I know who end up being very happy with being an expat are people who can go to a new place and experience it as it is, rather than experiencing it in comparison to where they're coming from. The people who are miserable, like, oh my God, this place doesn't have these conveniences. Oh my God, it's nothing like Chicago. It's nothing like Atlanta. It's nothing like London, wherever it is I'm moving from. Well, baby, if you like that place so much, why are you not there? The reality is that you have to come in with an open mind. And so one of the things I recommend to people is any place you're going to move to, give yourself at least 6 months to a year to go there before you make a decision around if you're going to stay, because your first 30 days are going to feel like paradise. Everything's going to seem amazing. It's going to just be like, oh my God, this is so much better than where I came from. And then after a while, maybe after 30, 60 days, something like that, then you're like, okay, you hit the reality that, okay, this is difficult. There's a language barrier, whatever it may be. And then it can go on from there. You start to miss people from home or whatever it may be. So what I always tell people is give it at least 30 to 60 days before you make a decision around if you want to stay there or leave. That was one of the commitments we made to ourselves, was that we were going to give it at least a base amount of time before we moved to anywhere else. And so that was really what we did in order to move abroad. I've tried different countries. People always ask me, why do you move around so much? Well, because I wanted to try different places. You know, honestly, that was really what it came down to. Some places worked, some places just didn't work for us. But at the end of the day, I wanted to try different places. And ultimately, I love where I'm at. And where I'm at may not be where you would love, but ultimately, you can choose a place that you love, or at the very least, try a place that you love. So I hope this information was helpful. And if you have any questions at all about moving abroad, feel free to comment below. I can respond to your comments, but also there are other people who are expats who can also tell you their experiences. So I would encourage them to respond in here as well. And let me tell you this, okay? I think that moving abroad can be a wonderful thing if it's something you're ready for, but if it's not something that you're sure about, definitely wait to do it, because it is a big decision. And when you make this decision, it can be a little hard to undo it. So make sure that you're sure about it before you do it. All right, y'all. Hopefully this was helpful.